It is the one and only, the Secretary of State, Michael Watson. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, my friend. I'm well. How are you?
Good. It is Tuesday of next week already.
It's almost here. You need to go ahead and get out there and make your plans, get ready to go vote, especially on the heels of Memorial Day, Paul. I was thinking about that this week. We were outside and some jets came over, and my girls and I just thought about, how cool it is. That's freedom right there. And all the men and women that died that went to fight for our freedoms to allow us the ability to go vote. It's something that we should all be mindful of and make sure that we honor them and their sacrifices when we go vote this Tuesday. So I just encourage everybody to get out and get ready to go vote.
Let's do this. Let's go through the one-by-one step here. First of all, in-person absentee voting. If for people who want to do in-person absentee voting, the absolute deadline, and speak to that first.
Absolute deadline this Saturday at noon. Your circuit clerk's offices will be open. They were open last Saturday until noon as well, so that's the last two Saturdays before Election Day, and the deadline will be absolutely this Saturday at noon. So I just encourage folks, again, if you're going to be out of town for work, if you're going to be out of the county in which you reside, you can go look at the list. There's several options that allow you to absentee vote. Y'allvote.ms has that all spelled out, so I encourage folks to take the time to take a few minutes and look at y'allvote.ms. And again, this Saturday at noon, your clerk's offices will be open and ready to help you.
They normally stay open until 5 o'clock in the afternoons?
Well, that was a change made due to COVID in 20. Now, if you're, 8 to 5 on Monday through Friday. But
so
Saturday,
you've got all week. You've got all week. I'm sorry, you've got not all week. You've got the rest of today and tomorrow, and of course all the way through Saturday. This Saturday till noon. So you do have plenty of time to do that. Now, for folks who've never done that before, but they're going to be leaving, maybe going to the Special Olympics, but they do want to vote. If you don't know where the circuit clerk's office is, ask Siri. She'll tell you, and it's not that hard. How long does it take normally to do that?
Yeah, so I'll be traveling all day Tuesday, Election Day. We'll be in different precincts around all 4 congressional districts. So I went in this past Saturday. I was in and out of there, Paul, in probably 5, 6, 7 minutes. So it doesn't take long, and they're very helpful. Obviously, we'll walk you through the process, show you, hey, look, make sure you sign here. Make sure you take your ballot in here and vote in secret and put it back in the envelope, sign across the flap. So they'll walk you through the process. It's very easy. Good. It doesn't take long at all.
Mail in now. That was in person. The deadline's going to be this Saturday at noon at the circuit clerk's office. But if you're mailing them in, is it too late?
It's not too late if you got a quick postal service. The problem is sometimes they're a little bit delayed. But technically, no, it is not too late. You have to have that ballot cast by Election Day, postmarked by Election Day, and it has to be received within 5 days thereafter. So that's, again, worry about your timelines there, of getting that back to you and then turning it around and making sure it's back in the mail by Tuesday, postmarked by Tuesday, and received within 5 days.
Polling place locations, if you are just new in town or you've changed addresses or something. And in some cases, we've had some changes as far as the voting places.
That's right. And it's important to note that the circuit clerks will update that information into SIMS. But if there is a change, and there's been some times where there's been some changes, locally, obviously, that we weren't told or aware of. Now, granted, the information would be in SIMS. But the safest way, Paul, for folks to know exactly where I go vote is to call your circuit clerk's office at the local level. Again, we're bottom-up state. The hard work is done at the local level. So if you've got a question about, hey, were there any changes made, it's best to call your circuit clerk or your elections commissioners to make sure you get the most accurate and up-to-date information.
Yeah. And again, as far as the voter ID, we really, everybody's surprised, and I think Mississippi ought to be used as the poster boy for how to do this thing the right way. But the voter ID, you are required to show a voter ID, but if you absolutely positively just don't have anything, which is kind of remarkable since you probably drove there, but no acceptable form of voter ID, you still will be allowed to cast an affidavit ballot.
That's right, but people need to know this, Paul. When you go to your circuit clerk's office, and many times, obviously, it's pretty close downtown, they will print you an ID. They'll make you an ID. So there's still time to go do that if you do not have one for voting ID purposes. And I encourage folks, And that was a great thing that we did with voter ID. We would even give folks rides to the clerk's office to help them get their ID. So it's very important that you get your ID to make sure you go vote. And again, it's a sacred right. It's not that much to ask to make sure that the person that's casting the vote is the actual person they say they are. And look, I walked in to vote Saturday. First question I got, let me see your ID. So, it's a great thing, and security of our elections process is something that's very important to us.
You know, Michael, I think one of the reasons we really didn't get a lot of feedback on this one or pushback from the national media is because after we started explaining all of the ways to get it and what we do for you, they are the ones that started looking like an arse, And that's one of the reasons that they probably didn't do a lot of pushback. Campaigning. Always, it's unlawful to campaign for any candidate within 150 feet of any entrance to the polling place unless on private property. But none of this, if you want to give somebody water, if you want to help somebody, you can certainly do that, but no campaigning within 150 feet.
That's exactly right. And encourage folks, if you've got a question about that, obviously you can always reach out to our office. But your local level, your sheriff's office, call your circuit clerk, call your elections commissioners. We don't have the prosecutorial authority to enforce. Well, that comes from our district attorneys and our attorney general. But at the local level, again, on election day, if you got a problem, please call your local law enforcement or your sheriff's department to report those type things. They're the ones that will be enforcing that. Yeah. So it's very important that you have that local knowledge of who to call and when to call them. So go ahead and prepare that as well.
Well, the other thing too is if the laundering laws are specific in this election as all of them. And if you're within, I think, 30 feet from the entrance, you've got some people there talking to folks, even if they're not handing out some things, and you have some people who are concerned, they likewise need to call the authorities.
Right, and another thing, if you're working the polls, and we're trying to send out reminders about these specific things, but folks that can come in and observe are credentialed, so make sure you check for folks that are credentialed. It's a peaceful process, and it's something we need to respect. But again, making sure that you research and understand the laws to be aware of what's going on in your precincts. And if there's something that's out of place or that you see something that may just doesn't look right, please call and reach out and make sure you're asking questions.
And this is something that I did not know, that voters are not allowed to take pictures of their marked ballots. Why is that?
So historically, obviously, the secrecy of the ballot is very important. Mm-hmm. And what I think, led up to this is folks that may have been, look, I'm going to give you $10 if you go in there and take a picture of your ballot and you vote for my buddy. I'm going to pay you for this, pay you for that. Yeah. So it's making sure that we don't allow or encourage or help folks with the process of getting paid to go vote or getting bribed or coerced somehow. Yeah. So that's really where that came from. And interestingly, a lot of states are starting to take another look at that. I know New Hampshire had a case that went up to one of the circuits. So that may be something we talk about moving forward.
The difference between the primary, and we try to explain it sometimes because people will ask, what can you do here or there? What's the Secretary of State involved in? But the party primaries are a little bit different than the general, and I'll leave it to you for the final thought here to explain that.
Yeah, definitely. The parties run the primaries. They can contract that with the commissioners at the local level to run those elections, and many times that is what happens. Obviously, across the state of Mississippi, we'll be having congressional primaries. So at the federal level, very important to do your research on your candidates, to get out and vote. Then we also have the Mississippi Levy Board. There's a handful of counties around the Delta there. So I encourage, again, folks to go to our website, look at the sample ballots, see who all is on your local ballot, make sure that you're prepared, make sure you do your research. But, yes, this is the primary, and then the general will move on into November. So there may be a runoff, and we'll get back on your show and tell everybody, hey, make sure you go back out for the runoff.
The runoff is in 3 weeks, is it not?
Correct, and the 4th Congressional District is a pretty crowded race down there, so folks need to be prepared for that one.
You got it.
Maybe somewhere else, but just be prepared and make sure you go research and be ready to vote.
Michael Watson, Mississippi Secretary of State. Mike, thank you.